Yeah, but then somebody ran over it. I have 10 deer in my yard every day. Deer alley. All right. We had a family of red foxes underneath the shed in his backyard. And it was the smell. Oh, yeah. Trying to have babies in them. Awesome. I can't and they tried to make it depends on if it's a male or a female. Have you ever been around goats? Have you ever been around a billy goat? Especially in Maine. The stream comes right in. Maybe that's why they Shirley Brothers got 23 the building goes on that. You don't walk on the hard dirt. That's why I like they always try to be it doesn't matter. Sunday best. I bring coffee.
I haven't cleaned out all the shelves.
My daughter thanks her mother. No longer makes it. 40,000 pictures. I told her what to do. She do it. I'm scared if she takes them off, she'll leave them for good. There they sit.
I want to watch it.
Well, do you have it go up to like to save them? She bought a package of one day memory. Internal memory.
All right, good morning, everyone. Oh, look at that. Daryl's so on time that I started even before the bell. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Man, there's just such good conversation going. That's why I wanted to start, so I could be the one that had to kill the good conversation. Hopefully, for other good conversation coming. Is the mic on in the North Fellowship Hall too? Okay, perfect. All right, well, as we get ready this morning, we're going to have a presentation here from Endowment Committee and our Stewardship team and our Memorial and Special Gifts. These are three great teams that do awesome work here, but also the things that they're going to be sharing and talking about, they also practice what they preach. And this really is a lifestyle for them, and it's my joy as pastor to partner with them and to watch them lead in this area. So I pray that this is a blessing for you today. My one public service announcement is, and it's those things that you say, after Easter this is happening, and then you realize that we're after Easter now, and it's happening, all right? So I need help, okay? So after Easter, we have our next round of new members that are going to be joining. We're trying this time of having two different opportunities for the first session. So if somebody's going to miss on a Saturday, they have another opportunity to come alongside and be blessed by that. So we have a healthy group of people that are thinking about joining. So what I need today is ministry mentors. So I'm going to pass around, and you can see I made this a long time ago, all right? Just made it right now, all right? But I'm passing around two different sheets. One says April 11th. That's this Thursday. So if you're able to come on this Thursday night, it's from 6 to 8, but Sarah will get in contact with you. You don't have to come right at 6 o'clock, but be thinking about staying till 8 to bless our new members that are joining on the Thursday, the 11th session. Just sign up here. All you have to put is name and best contact, and then the back side of each sheet has April 27th. From 9 to 11 a.m. So that's a Saturday, April 27th, or Thursday, April 11th. And if we can get a couple for sure for this Thursday so we can get moving and get excited about this new member class. And then the new member Sunday itself is May 19th. That's the last Sunday of the church year, or not the church year, but of our program year as we celebrate all that God did here last year. So April 11th, April 27th, I'll start one here, I'll start the other one down there, and it's okay if you don't sign up, if you can, please, but make sure you keep passing it so every table gets a chance. And now I'll turn it over to Daryl. Or, you are.
I already have a mic, I think. All right, good morning. Welcome. This is a little weird, but I'll get used to it. All right, thanks for coming this morning. Our topic, like Pastor Collins said, is about how and why we give. Basically, the goal is to rethink and inspire some action to give joyfully out of thanks as an act of worship, of using our time and talents and our treasure. I'll introduce our team from the start, but it was Jane is going to be leading from the endowment team, and Rich from Memorials, and my name is Daryl Schultz. I'm from the stewardship team, and I'm going to start us off today, and I'm going to start us off first with a devotion, actually, out of this handy stewardship Bible that I have. I've had these for a number of years. It's a contemporary English version, but it highlights 2,000 different verses in the Bible in green, so they stand out quite easily all throughout, regarding stewardship, provision, and trust. And I've got two extras that Rich just took one.
No, he's just
Okay, he's just browsing. I'm going to give two away later as a little bit of a maybe trivia part. But first, I'll start off with the devotion out of Giving from the Heart. There's a 40-day devotion inside of this. This is day 25, Giving from the Heart. And it's part of what I do when I go through Dave Ramsey classes for the giving section. So first we'll start off with a quick word prayer. Dear God, help us connect with you as we seek to know you and understand your word about giving. Amen. So today the devotion is based on John 3:16. God's God loved the people of, sorry, this is the contemporary version, so it kind of throws me off from just memory. God loved the people of this world so much that he gave his only son, so that everyone who has faith in him will have eternal life and never really die. And then also from 1 Corinthians 13:3, what if I gave away all that I owned and let myself be burned alive? I would gain nothing unless I loved others. God loved so much that he gave. Could there be a clearer statement of God's motive for giving? Because God is love, he is also a giver. In 1 Corinthians 13:3, Paul paints a graphic picture of extreme giving, so extreme that few could ever claim to have given so much. And then he shocks us with the revelation that the giver gains nothing by the giving unless it is motivated by love. We know God cares about our actions. This tells us he cares just as much about our heart and motivation. So something to reflect on with this. I think everybody has given before and it feels fun to give, but it also kind of feels good to be thanked, right, for the giving. It's kind of a nice little reaction to the giving that we do, whether it's maybe just a hand somebody a donut and they say thanks, or you help out with a friend, or give some money someplace as a donation. But do you think these things through on yourself? You don't have to answer, but do you give because you love? Before answering quickly, consider how much you would give if all of your giving had to be anonymous. What if no one ever knew you gave? What if they were never thankful and outwardly express that to you? This is one way to test how much of your giving is motivated by love of others versus love of self. So something to think about as we leave this devotion and move on to the other topic is, instead of dreaming about how you would give if you were wealthy, demonstrate a loving heart by giving freely from whatever resources you do have. And I'll close this in prayer before we move on into the rest of the presentation. Lord, thank you for giving out of your love. Help us to be like you in giving. Amen. So today we're going to talk about the head and why give, or the heart about the why giving, and the head about why we give. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the heart and the why we give. Let me do it that way. So like I said, John 3:16, this used to be kind of a cliched verse you'd see all over at football stadiums and stuff on Sunday. You don't see it as much anymore, but God gave everything in his son to pay our tab. He paid it all. And this is kind of on the piggyback of the red letter challenge that we just completed, talking about worshiping. We worship a God who gave up his most prized possession for all of us. He paid the entire price of our sin, every sin that we have and every sin we'll ever commit, and he did it by giving his son. And also in the red letter challenge, they talked about Luke 6:35. That's a verse that says, "But love your enemies and do good to them. Lend without expecting to be paid back. Then you will get a great reward, and you will be trustworthy children of God in heaven. He is good even to people who are unthankful and cruel." So here it talks about just lending or giving with expecting nothing in return. Again, kind of that back to the devotion. Another popular verse, obviously, for all of us is Ephesians 2:8-9. We're saved by God's grace through a gift of faith. It's not of our doing. It's not of our works. In other words, we don't have to give. We get to. Out of a gift of gratitude, or out of a place of gratitude. And there's lots of other places that the Red Letter Challenge talks about. This Bible highlights, like I said, Jesus talked about giving and finances in more ways in 2,000 verses. And think about different examples in the Bible about Jesus speaking about giving, speaking about money and trust. He knew it was going to be a problem for us after he left, so I think he left us purposely with a lot of verses that cover this. And Matthew 6:24-26 talks about can't be a slave or you can't be a slave to two masters. You either love one or hate the other. Do not worry about money and the things that are stuff. Our hearts are worth more than all the stuff that we could have. So, some other things just briefly on giving and why we give. It was actually created for our benefit. Proverbs talks about this. It says it softens the heart and frees the soul. The verse, it's like the old saying, it's better to give than receive, kind of on that same theme. Generosity will be rewarded. Give a cup of water and you'll receive a cup of water in return. Not that we have to do it to get something in return, but it does. It's a nice reward that I think when we give, we get something that feels back in return. And God wants us to have a relationship with Him, and that's where it's talking about. And stewardship, this definition of stewardship is basically a manager of somebody else's things. So as we are all stewards, and we are managers of God's stuff, not our stuff. Luke 19, 11 through 26, talking about parable of the talents, and to use your God-given gifts. Don't just bury them. You remember that story, I'm sure. He wants us, again, to have a relationship with Him. He doesn't need our stuff. Psalm 24:1, He created everything in the earth and the fullness thereof. Our donation back is not going to make or break what God does, but He wants us to have a relationship with Him, and that's the Rich and Important Man talks about it, and it's actually in 3 different spots in the Bible, and they're very similar accounts. And why do you think it's in 3 different spots and repeated 3 different times in 3 different ways? It's super important, obviously, and He wants us not to focus on the things of the earth like the rich young man was, but to focus on having a relationship back with Him. So, in terms of then what we do in the fall here at church, it's been kind of a tradition, I'd say, of ours to do a fall stewardship drive at Redeemer. The stewardship team leads this, and this is after a devotion and a series that Pastor Coughlin did on parables and possessions. We handed out this pledge form as part of that, and in the pledge form, it's really not about the church and for us as a team or for us as an organization. It's really for all of us to do, and it's about the activity, and again, kind of fulfilling that relationship with God, and not, and really it's not about the money, but it's about encouraging us to do the activity, to pray about it, to actually, in this case, go through the pledge. And if you haven't read that for a while, since maybe the fall when you signed it, we're going to be able to give you all a chance to read it again and see it, because the first quarter giving reports are going to be coming out soon. And as part of that, we're doing an opportunity to redo the pledge, read it again if you've already done it, or pledge for the first time if you haven't yet done it. And again, this isn't about the money, and it's not about what the church needs. It's about what we want you to have as an activity and a devotion back to God, and about taking this pledge and what it says in there quite seriously. So this was really about the inspiring on the heart and what we had placed on us in baptism. And I think we can talk about a lot of different places in the Bible regarding the heart, but I'm on a time budget here, so I want to make sure to then talk also about the head knowledge of how to do the giving. Because if you got all the inspiration now, how do I do it? So what we're going to talk about is 5 different ways, really, that you can be generous. In any whether it's in Redeemer or whether it's in Rochester or wherever you are. And there's many, many examples in this room of people who give in these 5 different ways, but just to kind of recap kind of different ways that we consider giving is volunteering or service, of time and talent and giving of self. And basically volunteering and service, helping through unpaid labor, volunteerism. Think of Sunday school teachers or people who volunteered for RSC. There's a ton of different opportunities and examples here. Also, emotional and relational support. Basically being there with a compassionate ear and verbal encouragement and support. That makes me think of Stephen ministers and the work they do. Hospitality, being open and welcoming to others, helping people feel accepted for who they are without judgment. There's, I think, a need right now for RC homes hosting people that are coming in from out of town, so that'd be great. If you have it on your heart to give in a hospitality kind of way, there's ways to connect on any of these things with time and talent. And then moving on to the treasure, the giving of things. Basically, monetary support. It's kind of the obvious one. Donating financial resources to people or causes. Obviously here with Redeemer, things that you feel important, that the missional work that's being done. And then that's more, we're going to talk a little bit about this in a minute, kind of the how on the week-to-week sort of things. And then gifts, giving through the sharing of tangible gifts other than monetary. Rich and Jane will talk about that a bit more as well. But this family of believers has a big heart for giving of all these different ways, time and talent and treasure. And I think everything is important that we do. And again, it's not about doing these things because we have to. But basically, we get to do these things out of a gracious God who gave us everything. So with that, kind of a little tutorial that I've used in the past on some giving. So there's a lot of ways, like I said, to give. Giving is an act of worship. And one of the ways, you can give online now through the system there. And if you have questions about any of these, see me and I can help you out. Donated stock. You can give donated stock to Redeemer. And just as an FYI, IBM is pretty high right now, so you might want to think about that. Well, that's not financial advice. That's for a different topic. Qualified charitable distributions. This is another cool way to give. Basically, if you're over 70 and a half, you can have your IRA provider write out a check directly to Redeemer. It goes to satisfying a required distribution and that the IRS makes you take out, but you don't get taxed on it. And obviously the church gets the benefit of the donation. So it's a really neat thing that if you have more questions about it, I'd be happy to answer. I'm not going to go through these in great detail because we have something coming up in the fall that we're going to go through as another session with more detail on the how to give that we'll talk a little bit about it as well later. So what you're seeing in front of you is a copy of our actual physical envelope. Now, we personally like to use the physical envelope just because it's tangible. It's a thing that, when our kids were younger, they saw, so it was something very real rather than just kind of online giving, which there's nothing wrong with online giving, but my kids can't see if I'm doing something on my app. So there's no right or wrong way to give. I'll say that right now. But the other word I would say is don't assume that somebody isn't giving if you don't see them drop something into the giving plate as it passes by on a Sunday, okay? So just that kind of word of caution out there that there's a lot of people that give in all these other different ways. And the main thing is that this concept applies the same way that I'm going to show here on these envelopes, where basically, you've got the mission box with a line there that you would use to indicate the amount you want to give to the mission budget. You can put that in dollar terms and the financial secretaries will separate it out. And if nothing is indicated on the envelope, automatically 10% is going to be directed towards the mission budget here at Redeemer. So, first question, this is a trivia question. This is where we're going to do a giveaway. All right? 2024 mission budget. Anyone want to take, or anybody know, or want to take a guess on what our Redeemer 2024 mission budget is? You're not allowed to answer. Brian's on the team. He needs to know. Anybody want to take a guess what our, Connie?
I don't know the amount, but I believe it's 10% of our offering.
Oh, well, that's a great guess. We do automatically give 10% if it's not indicated, but it's actually more than 10%.
Okay.
And we purposely try and keep it more.
Well, I had to get that straight, that what we give, the church gives commissions, and then if you hit the mission, that's in addition to. You know what I'm saying?
Say that again.
I mean, I give general budget. Let's say 10% goes. But say I want to give more than that, then there's a mission, then I say, oh, this is going all to mission.
You can. That's kind of what this is getting at. So basically, what I understand that you're saying is if you just said enough, if you just put in a check and put your name here,
Yes,
Redeemer will automatically direct 10% of it to mission without you indicating anything on these lines.
right.
If you put a dollar amount in these boxes, that amount will go to that place. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Right, right.
And not and the 10%.
Yes.
Correct. It's the amount that you're putting in that line that goes to that place. Make sense? All right, does anybody else want to take a hazard on what the total amount is then? Since it's more, if you know our church budget, it's more than 10%. So you need, what was that? 130,000. You're low, but you guess what? We'll give you a Bible. Thank you for volunteering your guess. No, it was $179,500 this year, or about 13% of the overall church budget. So we try and work as a stewardship team with the council to see what their total budget is coming up with, and then see what we had for mission giving or mission dedicated amounts, and then we try and equal that to make sure it's at least 10%. Good. Bonus question. There's no prize for this one. Just a bonus question. Anyone know our biggest supported mission? Pablo. Very good. Pablo. Yeah, they've been a big benefactor of our both time and talent and treasure at this church. All right. So any other questions on this, you can always see me after, but the ministry part is to indicate the amount to the Redeemer general budget. So a big chunk of our general budget I would still call mission, because it goes to paying our called and our church staff to do their missional work. So this is mission to me in a big way, but this is basically to help keep other things going, like the lights on and warmth in the building and stuff like that. So does anyone want to, this is the second giveaway, by the way. Weekly income need, now this is the church isn't a business, I'm not saying that it is, but we still have bills to pay. So does anyone know what the weekly income needed is to break even?
20,000.
Very good guess.
25.
Ooh, even better. You get a Bible. $26,979.02. 2 cents. Rich has got the 2 cents this week. We got the other 9 Yeah, so basically every week, on average, we need about $27,000 roughly to keep things running. All right, here's a bonus question. How many households gave in 2023? Any amount. There are, how many households? 550 total households. Take a guess how many gave?
400.
300? 400?
5.
Jane, 337. 62% of the households gave at least $1. And it shows up. So just as a way of looking at what people have done, there's the third area that we can always give is what's called a special gift line. It's used to indicate an amount and designation. So something, think like Sunday school or VBS, or you want to give to Pablo or RSE. If you give to that as a special designation, that amount will go to that organization. So if we're giving to Pablo already out of the church mission budget, that will be an additional gift to Pablo, if it's indicated here as an example.
So can I ask a question about
Yeah.
that? Do we pay for those envelopes?
Yes, we pay. So
They cost us money.
the question is asked, do we pay for the envelopes? Yes, we pay for these envelopes. And the next question is, should we? And the answer is, it's a very minor amount that we pay for the envelopes.
Okay, because the only reason I ask is when I was inquired, there were people who said that they gave online. So they strictly
Yeah.
did everything online. The minute they received those, they went home and threw them in the wastebasket. So that didn't make sense to me but they just saw no reason to have an envelope. And if they cost the church money, that might be a cost saving if people are opting for online. I'm just making a point.
It's a good point. We've heard it before, and what I would say back is that this also gives people the physical tool in an act of worship to still give something.
Yeah.
Like even if it's like $10 to VBS or to donuts or whatever. You know, you can go above your giving tithe that you might be doing online or a QCD or a IBM stock donation and use these envelopes. Again, it's about the act.
Yeah.
It's about the devotion. It's about the relationship. Not to say that the only way to give is using one of these physical envelopes, but we found that also that's an important thing. Plus, the cost savings is so minimal, and frankly, the time to try and weed out the people is probably more of a problem than Yes?
The reason I like the envelopes is because, like, say, you can get up in the morning and say, I think I'll give something this morning to something.
Yeah.
You get the envelope, write down the special gift, bring it in.
Yeah, so you're saying it's an opportunity to give a special gift.
Because without that, then what am I gonna use to do that with?
So on a quick note, online you can do this also. There's, I believe, a drop down, if I remember right, that just has special gift. So this concept is the same there, so you can still do it that way, but the envelope is a great physical way to
I think
contribute.
when you get that package, you should have something in there that says there are special giving envelopes for special Sundays, special events, Easter, Christmas offerings. I think people throw it away, don't realize there's special envelopes in there just for those.
That's a great point, like Lent and Advent and the other special services. And that might be something, Rich, for the memorial side too, that we could, to incorporate. All right. So again, there's a lot of different ways to contribute both time, talent, and treasure. There's a lot of different physical ways or electronic ways to do it. I don't want to get hung up on the ways we do it. It's more about the act of giving and the relationship of trust that you have with the provider. So now, Jane's going to first talk about some other memorial or endowment, and then Rich is going to talk about some regarding the memorials.
Thanks, Daryl. I'm going to use this just to start because I don't have much to say right in this segment because Daryl's done such a good job of covering. Just to hit on, again, we've talked about the ways to give through your offering envelope, and if you are giving a gift, a special gift, please make sure you use that envelope to designate it. I know of one example, for instance, where somebody just dropped off or mailed in a check and wrote it in the memo line that they wanted it to go to a certain fund, and it got missed. So if you do use your envelopes, that's just helps to get things where you intend for it to go. Daryl talked about the online giving, and yes, that if you go to the Redeemer website and you go to the top menu where it says give, you click on there, you scroll down a little bit to start getting into the giving menu. That menu has been improved tremendously since we first rolled it out. And so now you can give to name the fund if that's what you want to do. If you want to establish a janitorial appreciation fund and give $10 to that, you can write that in there if you want. So the online giving gives you a lot of options. If you actually establish an account, give yourself a username, which I think is your email, and then a password, then whatever information you put in there, whether you're having the gift taken from your bank account or if you're giving through your credit card, it will retain that information, so you don't have to put it in again. And it also will keep a record for you of what giving you have done online, through the online. Of course, the gifts that you give through your offering aren't, uploaded to that, but it'll keep a record for you of what you've given online. Pastor?
And one note, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you do online giving, my wife and I have always done the envelope for trying it this year just to experience that side. But if you do online giving and use your bank account, there is not an additional fee.
That is correct. At least on the giver end. I can't say from the church end, but there's no, what Pastor said is if you give online and you use your bank account, there's no additional fee to have it withdrawn from your bank account as opposed to using a credit card. And also through the online giving, you can set up a one-time gift or recurring gift. So I'm one of those choir members who brings the envelope, and then I'm upstairs singing during offering, and that envelope gets carried around my purse for 3 weeks before I finally remember to put it in the offering plate or in the house. So I use online when I find myself walking home with checks that I wrote and then didn't get them delivered. You can also use the Vanco app through your phone if that's your preferred technology. It works just like the online. Through the website, so you have all the same options to give to different. There are some funds that are sort of pre-fed in there, but you can just choose other fund and type in janitorial appreciation fund and let me know how that goes. Is Justin here? I should look. All right. The other thing we haven't talked about is, again, if you're like me and can't seem to remember to put that envelope in the house, or in the offering plate. If you're coming in during the week during office hours, you can certainly drop it off at the office and they will make sure it gets to the right place. Obviously, that doesn't work outside of office hours. And there's always the US mail, probably the least reliable of all your options. Okay. Enough said. All right, I just am going to introduce Rich to come up and talk about memorials and undesignated funds. Do you want this one?
I'd rather do this one. Good morning. Look at the title of our ministry team. Years ago, Bernie Nessler gave me a call and wanted to know if I would like to be on this ministry team, and I'm going, memorials and boy, that's the bottom of the barrel. If somebody has a nickel left that's undesignated, they're going to get it in this ministry team. Totally wrong. Unbeknownst to me at the time, he was mentoring me to take over this ministry team, and I didn't know that, and he kept showing me stuff, and if you're on a team of any kind, make sure you're mentoring somebody to follow up behind you, whether it's a small group Bible study, a committee of some kind. Make sure that you're always working with somebody else to let them know what needs to be done on that team. Okay, memorials and undesignated funds ministry team. There's four to six of us that we meet quarterly, and we meet online more often if something comes up that somebody says, we've got $5,000 and all we need is $6,000 to finish this project, and we'll take it under consideration in our memorial team and look at it and just online, because there's a deadline for that person to meet of some kind. But most of the time, 90% of the time, we have more than enough time to take care of things from quarter to quarter. We meet, January, April, August and October, something like that, July and October. And we've done very well, I think, ministering the money out to the congregation. First of all, we try to follow some rules, and I put those in quote. Does helping this person benefit the gospel? That's the first thing we use. The second thing we use, does this giving of money benefit the people here at Redeemer? And third, we try not to make sure that we don't do it and give it away and it's the wrong thing to do. So we sit a lot and just think about, throw things out, give ideas out. What should we do? How should we manage that? You think we ought to give to that group? No, that group's in the budget. So there's a lot of considerations that people don't realize that we do. But if you want to check our money, the amount of money that this ministry team has, there is a line on the annual report that you can check and see what money is in there. And what was the other thing here? Oh, I started earlier about memorials and undesignated funds. Our money does come from funerals quite often. And Ellie, I see her sitting right over there. Every time we get a donation, Ellie would send out a thank you card to that person for donating at that particular person's funeral. and then our team would get that money. So then we look at it, and it might be appropriate to spend it on this, along with personal requests from you guys. So you're welcome. There's a form that you can stop in the office and get and fill that out, and you could request money from our ministry team. You may or may not get it. I'm guessing 90% of the time we've probably given the donation, but it's usually a follow-up to something else. And I'm going to give you some examples if you ever want to ask for money from memorials and undesignated funds. The water fountains here at church, that was a huge amount of money that was not in the budget. And years ago, when Bernie was still alive, we made that project happen and included the bottle filling water spigot that's in the back. So we replaced, they were pretty outdated, pretty antiquated, and we got those all replaced. The Bible rack back there has all new Bibles on it. Our team, and if you kind of follow the flow, none of this stuff is in the budget. And I think if, I'm just trying to guess, anybody, if they thought we need to replace those Bibles, they might go ahead and do it themselves. But we do have money set aside that you can request to do a project like that. The upstairs in the sanctuary, there's the Children's Pew Bible. That came from our group. Somebody made that request and said, wouldn't it be great to have these story Bibles in the pews? So we did that. One of Bernie's gifts long ago, and some of you will know this, and I don't know the timeline, but he gave a grill to the Rochester Servant event for Paul Lewis to grill his hamburgers outside. It kept getting used and used and used, and when he passed away, he had money set aside to go into memorials money, but specifically designated by Paul a new grill. And so sometimes that happens. We'll get money, but it's already been told what to do with it, so we don't get to choose that. But Paul and I went out shopping, and we got him a new grill. The Red Letter Challenge and the Bean Challenge books with the endowment committee, we gave money so that those could be purchased for the first time. And then with your donations, now we have a set aside dollar amount that keeps getting money rotated into it. So we should be able to have these total church Bible studies all the time. Altar committee, they came to us and said, this is when I was talking to you earlier about a deadline. They had wanted to replace these pyramids, and if you don't get up to the altar very often and look, they're frayed. I mean, maybe not now, but they were. They're just frayed on all the edges, and so they thought it would be appropriate to replace those. Well, they came to us and said, we have this much money, but we don't have enough, and we need to do it by the 31st. And so we did one of our online things and said, is this the right thing to do? And talked about it online for 3 or 4 days. Figured out that, yep, let's help them out and get this done for them. And so we were able to help them go. And then earlier we were talking about Justin and what's his title now?
Facility management.
Facility management.
So don't start a janitorial.
No? Okay. No janitorial appreciation fund, she said. This just happened. And if you want, you can find Justin. I don't know where he parks this thing. But before, he was using a bucket and a mop to scrub floors. So he had to figure out, how do I get that done with all these people here? How do I get that done? How do I move all this furniture and stuff and get this done so nobody will walk by and slip and fall? So we got him a walk-behind scrubber and sucks up the water right behind it. He can do it anytime he wants. One of the things that brought this to our attention was he was showing up here at 6 o'clock in the morning because he could have that time to himself and do the hallways and bathrooms and all this kind of stuff without worrying about anybody coming through and slipping and falling. So you can see that we're not giving money away. We're figuring out, how does it promote the gospel? How does it help people here at Redeemer? And is it the right thing to do? And I think Darryl would be happy that we do some of the giving because it's encouragement, it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Gosh, I didn't really introduce myself. I'm Jane Quaintance, if you don't know me, and I'm on the endowment committee. You may know me as a musician and a Sunday school teacher, but I actually spent my career in financial services. So this is kind of my comfort zone. I know talking about money is not so comfortable for everybody, but this is, it's an expression of my love language. My love language is serving and giving. And so I hope that you leave today inspired and not with the perception that this is all about an ask for money. That's not what this is all about at all. It's about giving from the heart as an expression of our faith and our relationship with God. The endowment fund, we don't get a lot of opportunity to talk about what is the endowment fund. Gifts to the endowment fund of whatever size are invested, and then it's the income from the investments that we have available to support ministries. And as Rich was saying about memorials, it's to support things that aren't in the budget. So it's the gift that keeps on giving, if you will. We invest the gift, and they're invested for the long term, and they continue to grow, and then it's the income that's used to support ministry, to do kingdom work. All right, my turn to ask a question. Anybody have any idea what the value is of the endowment fund? Endowment committee members, you're not eligible to answer. I don't have a giveaway. You just get bragging rights. Anybody want to guess? Wendy says 200,000. Okay. Glenn says just shy of 400. We're at 380,000. Isn't that wonderful? A lot of that has come from gifts, and then in addition, the growth, right? And this is the way the growth goes. If you've got a particularly retirement account, you know it goes like this. Some years you might see our annual report and, oh gosh, we lost money this year. But we haven't really lost it if we haven't cashed out, right? That's the way the markets work. But what I do want to emphasize is that 300,000 is not, it's a combination of many gifts, and a lot of what we might consider small gifts. A $25 memorial in tribute to someone who's passed away, or a $600 celebration of our 60th wedding anniversary. That we have received a lot of, in fact, over the last, I think 10 years, we've received $20,000 in those kind of gifts. Memorials, special occasions. We had a member who's now passed away, but she used to give a monthly amount, and it was kind of a small gift, but when you add it up over the year, it totals. And then she used her Thrive matching dollars to go to the endowment fund. So lo and behold, we end up, and at this point we have 380,000 in the fund, which again is meant to just grow and give continually. So this is an avenue for stewardship where your giving gives continually and perpetually. It hopefully outlives you. So besides talking about finances, which maybe you're not comfortable about, now I'm going to bring up passing. A gift to the endowment fund probably outlives you. Just saying. So God can do a lot with a little. Over the last few years, the endowment fund has contributed $30,000 to different ministries to support. And within the walls of Redeemer and far beyond. So for instance, Rochester Servant Event, when that event was first getting started and it was not in the budget, endowment provided seed money to get that project going. Now it's in the budget and does its own fundraising. But we are happy to get that started. This is one of my favorite ministries that we supported. We have a sister congregation in Sangweni, South Africa. Isn't that fun to say? Sangweni. In Sangweni, South Africa. They had a terrible flood a few years ago and pretty much wiped out their village. Every single home was damaged and needed to be rebuilt. And so that following summer, our Vacation Bible School children and their families took their offering for Vacation Bible School Week, was going to that project, and then endowment matched it, added considerably to it, and we were able to send $6,000 to the Sangweni, which is about the cost of building one new home. So we actually have a home that we helped to build in South Africa. That just gives me goosebumps when I think about it. Recently, when we did the food drive down on Marion Road, the congregation was extremely generous and gave, I think it was 150 or 160 grocery bags worth of food, and then also cash donations to buy perishable foods. Well, endowment matched that and more, so that they were able to buy the amount or the quantity of perishables that they wanted to match those 150, 160 bags that we had of dry goods. So we were happy to participate in that ministry. Here's something I hope a lot of you have benefited from, the t-shirts last year. That request came to endowment as kind of a limited project. And when we considered it an endowment, we said we think you should think bigger. And so we said, let's open it up to the whole congregation, and endowment will subsidize the cost of the t-shirts, keep them affordable, because wearing those t-shirts out in the community is a really great outreach opportunity. Whenever I've worn mine out, sure enough, somebody says something. It's a great conversation starter. So as you can see, we've done missions around the world as well as here in our local community. So we have set a goal for this year, 2024, to disperse $6,500, and that's a goal. It's not a limit. So if you have a ministry, a team that you're on, and you have a project that you're kicking around and you think that the finances are what's holding you back, please talk to the endowment team. We'd love to hear the project that you're working on, or even something personal that you're aware of. As I said, $6,500 is a goal, not a limit. It breaks my heart when I hear somebody say, oh, well, you know, we thought about coming to endowment with it, but we thought that we should save that money for somebody, some other worship or one ministry team. Breaks my heart. You know, a lot of times that other team either doesn't come forward with the plan, something happens, and then we have money that isn't spent. So please reach out to any of our committee members, and we'd love to hear what you're working on and how we can bless that ministry. Our committee members are Mandy Anderson, who is here, and Ken Blazing is here over on the piano. You gonna play us a tune, Ken? Okay. Arnie Faulkner, not here today, but Kay is. Myself and Sue Walsh is here. So speak to any one of us at any time about how the endowment can work with you.
Question, is the only way endowment gets money is through gift? Is that the only way?
Joan asked if...
From Redeemer budget.
Joan asked the question if endowment only gets its money from gifts. That's correct. We do not get anything through the budget. Now, hold on to that thought, because you're about 2 slides ahead of me, Joan. Okay. She's always 2 slides ahead of me.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I told you I'm going to talk about finances and death. So here we get to the death part, which I think, you know, as Christians, why don't we talk about death? I just think it's going to be the best thing ever. I mean, really, we talk about our salvation and we look forward to the joyful reunion. So why do we avoid talking about death? You know, sure, we're going to miss our loved ones and we hope they miss us, but I'm looking forward to something much better when we move on to higher ground. That's a quote from Arnie Faulkner. Moving on to higher ground. So leaving a final gift or a final offering is also an option. I think that as an American culture, we don't think about this often enough. And here at Redeemer, we haven't talked about it near enough. But over the last 11 years, and that's just kind of random, that's the period of time over which I have the information. But over the last 11 years, we've been blessed with more than $500,000 in final gifts from people. And again, those gifts, it's not all, you know, $100,000 gifts. Those gifts go from $5,000 on up. Some of them, yes, they've been quite sizable, but even a $5,000, $10,000 final gift is a wonderful blessing to the ministry here. Here's just a list of some of the bigger projects that we've been able to do with that $500,000. To Joan's question, so you see up here, when a bequest is made or is received, a lot of times we don't know it's coming, and you know, someone passes away and months later a gift shows up. The gift is under the auspices of the council to manage, so to speak. Council has had a policy for many, many years. It gets tweaked over time, but has a policy that if the gift is over a certain amount, then a certain percentage goes to missions and a certain percentage goes to endowment. So that when you give a final offering or a final gift, it's not just staying here at Redeemer. It's being applied to missions, all over the world, the missions that we support as a congregation. And part of it is going to the endowment, which is invested. And again, that gift is going to live on continually. So a final gift, as I said, goes in a number of directions. So if you look at those two together, the missions and the endowment, that's $145,000, which is not quite a third, or it's 28% of that total that you saw on the last screen that's been given. And then we've used it to do a number of projects here at Redeemer that weren't in the budget, would have possibly involved capital campaigns, certainly would have involved congregational meetings to approve the funding of these projects and then figure out how we were going to fund them. Two of which I'm going to point out, the technology upgrades and the air exchange system were both things that were needed when we shut down for COVID. And we started doing outdoor worship. We needed some equipment to make that outdoor worship work so people could hear it and people could see it. We needed an air exchange system, an improvement in the air exchange in the congregation before we could feel comfortable reopening. Those were two very significant expenditures, and thankfully we did have these bequests on hand and we could do them and not have to have a couple of congregational meetings to approve these things. I just think about how, during COVID, especially early, how would we have done a congregational meeting, right? So, I mean, the blessing of these bequests it goes beyond description in many ways. Not just the logistics of having the funds available for these special projects, but also you think about the legacy that leaves. When you leave a final gift, to me, it's an expression of what was important in your life, right? Again, we talk about first fruits, and are you living today between your finances and your calendar, and with your final plans, with your estate? Does that reflect what your priorities are and how important your faith and your blessings from God are? So I'm going to push you a little bit to think about, not a little bit, I'm going to push you to think about your final plans, and does it reflect what really is important to you, your life here on this earth? This comes from some material I found from Lutheran Hour Ministries, but in Psalm 78 it says, "We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders." With your estate plan, you tell a lot to the next generation, don't you? Hopefully, it's consistent with what you've told them during your lifetime and what they've learned from you, not just from your words, but from seeing your actions. But the same thing with your final plan, right? What's your legacy for the next generation? I'm going to have to whip through this kind of quickly, but Lutheran Hour Ministry has a really great, yes, artist.
I have an investment, and I have named Redeemer Lutheran Church as the beneficiary. So I presume that goes into the endowment fund? Or should I be looking at choices, or even let you know that when I go, you're going to get some?
All right. So artist says that she has a particular investment fund that she's named Redeemer as the beneficiary, right? And she she presumes it comes to the endowment fund. If you don't designate it at all, it's going to the bequest fund, and then per the council policy at that time, it will be divided, some to endowment, some to missions, and then some to special projects. It might just wait for the right project to arise. If you want it to go to a special fund, you should designate that either in your beneficiary designation. So like if endowment's easy for me to speak to. If you wanted it all to go to Redeemer Endowment, you'd say Redeemer Lutheran Church Endowment Fund. or 50% endowment fund, 50% redeemer. And then it would, go in as a bequest.
Or me.
Or, sorry, Bob, you're out. But that's a great point. Like I said, I think as Americans, we sort of have certain customs or patterns that we follow, and the people who draft these documents for us don't always think outside the box. You don't necessarily have to wait for the second of you to go, right? So my example is when I was 23 years old, out of college, completely broke, living paycheck to paycheck. At some point I got a call from a Lutheran Brotherhood representative, and would I like to, blah, blah. I said, I have no money. But they did sell me a kind of minimal dollar life insurance policy, which has been so cheap, I don't need it anymore. I think I got enough money to cover my funeral expenses after I'm gone. But it's so cheap for me to keep it. I've just kept the life insurance policy, and when I go, whether I'm the first or the second to go, it's going to come to Redeemer because it's easy. So I don't even think about that. But it's all about in the titling of your beneficiary in your account. And if you want that to go to other than just sort of the general bequest pool, you should make that known. Yeah. Thank you, Artis. Sorry, Bob, not going you. All right, so real quickly, the Lutheran Hour Ministries has a really great tool that I've printed out, and there will be handouts over on the table under the cross when we're done here, and if you leave the north direction, they'll be on a table up there. This is from Lutheran Hour Ministries. It's a guide to writing an ethical will, or what you might call a legacy will or a love letter. It gets you thinking about what are you leaving, what is your legacy, not just in terms of your finances and your assets, but in terms of the legacy that you want to leave with your loved ones. What are some of the family stories that you want to make sure continue to be passed on? What have been the great joys in your life? Do you want to communicate to them how important your faith community has been, or how important your faith is? So it's a really great tool. I hope you'll take that home, take a look at it, and really start thinking about writing a love letter, a legacy love letter. You can share it with your loved ones while you're living, or leave it for them after you're gone. But it's a great way to kind of have that final expression. Of course, I'm going to encourage you to think about including a gift in your final plans. It's a great way to, again, you're leaving a legacy, not just a financial legacy, but you're leaving a statement for your your loved ones, for your next of kin, about what your priorities have been and how God has blessed you so richly. And then I'm just going to ask, as a financial person, I have been in the situation to help settle a number of estates. And nothing pains me more than to see an estate plan that hasn't been touched for 30 years. So if you don't have an estate plan, I'm going to encourage you to do that. We won't go into all that, those details now, but we do have a financial planner coming from, our financial counselor coming from LCMS Foundation this fall. And he will speak more about the sort of final arrangements and some of the opportunities there. But I will encourage you to please, if you don't have a will or a final estate plan, please get going on one. There's tools that we have available for you today to take and get started. If you have done one, awesome. Did you do the follow through? And is it organized so your loved ones can find it? And thirdly, keep it current. If you haven't looked at it in the last 5 years, it's time to look at it. Things change. Lutheran Brotherhood isn't Lutheran Brotherhood anymore. My kids wouldn't know what Lutheran Brotherhood life insurance, where do we find that? So keep it current. Things change. People pass away, people get divorced, unfortunately. Insurance companies get bought out. Does your will say something about a Marquette bank account? Okay, so point made, I hope. Just quickly, ways that you can make a bequest, or through all kinds of tools or vehicles. And I think we'll talk more about this in the fall. In the interest of time today, we aren't going to go into them. But So as I said, we have a gift planning counselor coming the first Sunday in October, and he will talk more about some of these tools and different circumstances, sort of what planning vehicles might be most appropriate. There we go. I want to just leave with a couple of thoughts. We haven't talked much about volunteering today, just in the interest of time. But don't discount the amount of time that you contribute. Again, does your calendar as well as your checkbook, do they reflect what's most important to you? And if you truly believe that God is most important and everything comes from Him, I hope your calendar and your checkbook reflect that. So whatever gifts you give of your time, your skills, your financial gifts, they're all appreciated, and really they glorify God, don't they? So thank you for your gifts. Bob?
I had a good friend that was a millionaire, and he had a lot of property, a lot of money. And I remember him telling me once, he says, if you wait for the best time to give away stuff, you'll never give it this stuff. You'll never. And as soon as he got through his brain, he started really giving, and he said, there's no, give it away.
So Bob was saying he had a friend who was quite wealthy, but a little bit stingy about giving things away. It wasn't the right time, or it wasn't time. None of us know the right time, right? So when you think about your estate planning, a good question that I've had put in front of me is, if God took you tonight, are you ready to go? I feel like spiritually I am. Hopefully, financially I am. Hopefully, I'm not just... I'm practicing what I preach, right? And I have things together. But it's a really good reminder to think about. You just never know when God's going to take us. Sorry, we don't have time to go through closing, but I would direct you to just turn to, when you get home, turn to 1 Chronicles 29. It's where David was sort of handing over the responsibility of building the temple to Solomon, and David has a wonderful prayer of thanks in there for all that everyone contributes, and not just David himself, but also all the people, all the leaders, and what a legacy it leaves for the next generation. So I encourage you to go home and read 1 Chronicles chapter 29. Let's finish in prayer. Father, you are so generous, and we do know that everything comes from you. What we give back to you out of thanks. We ask that you soak our hearts in the beauty of your generosity and your kindness, so that we can overflow with grateful giving, and move us to honor your extravagant generosity in all that we do. May the ledger of our finances and our calendars be the measure of our love for you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you all for coming, and feel free to grab some handouts on the way out.
Insurance companies keep buying each other. Yeah.